and welcome back to another video. This is Randy ASMR, and today I'm going to be talking about some kinda extra little facts and backstory about the different characters in Cyberpunk Edgerunners. Now, the information that you're going to hear in this may be spoilers, so I would definitely recommend watching the anime before listening to this video. And all the information that I'm going to be sharing with you is official. It's the official background from the team behind Cyberpunk Edgerunners. This actually comes from their one-shot, the campaign they made for the Cyberpunk Red tabletop game. So for those of you that don't know, the Cyberpunk 2077 and the anime Edgerunners was actually based on, or I guess not based on, but it was originally a tabletop game, kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, although sci-fi. Now, the one-shot is one I definitely recommend anyone who's into tabletop games to play the one-shot. They add a lot of stuff for the 2077 time, because the usual setting of the Cyberpunk Red is a decent amount of time before Edgerunners, and oh my goodness, it is very foggy. What is... Okay, I might skip ahead a little bit because this is ridiculous. It is insanely foggy right now. Okay, so now that I have that all sorted out, the first character I am going to be kind of going over is the information on Atom Smasher. So you might already know about his backstory, but this I think gives maybe a little bit more information about it. So, the truth is, we don't know much about Atom Smasher. After all, he's been alive for nearly a century, and any story we would tell would probably be more legend than truth. According to an article he wrote for Solo of Fortune back in the 2020s, he was born and raised in New York, where he led a campaign gang before enlisting in the military. Adam spent 6 years in the Marine Corps before they kicked him out. Afterwards, he went full Edgerunner, specializing in nasty and destructive jobs. A couple of rocket-propelled grenades ended that career, but began another when Arasaka found him, stuffed his brain into a Borg body, and signed him to a lifetime contract. We know Adam was active up to and during the Fourth Corporate War. He specialized and took joy in leading strike forces to slaughter communities full of not only enemies but their families as well. Yeah, so he was a very nasty guy. Rumors place him in Arasaka's Night City HQ when the nuke went off. If so, the metal bastard survived the blast. Then he fell off the radar. For the next few decades, stories of an unstoppable metal juggernaut running ops circled the globe. All we know for sure is he's currently back in Night City after a few years away. Or someone claiming to be him is. Maybe the real Atom Smasher died during the nuke, and Arasaka brainwashed some poor FBC, or more than one, into believing he's the genuine article. Weirder things have happened. So that is the information they have here on Atom Smasher. might not actually be the original Atom Smasher, but someone that they just outfitted to look like him, or that they just gave all of his gear to after he may have been killed. I think is kind of a really interesting little kind of mystery there, whether or not it's actually Atom Smasher. Okay, so the next entry on here is for David Martinez. So here we go. Tell me you remember. Tell me you remember those scenes from the rom-coms of yore. Say the previous century. Big city, a man and a woman walking down the street. The woman suddenly stops due to a contraction, a big one that knocks the wind out of her. The guy flags down the first available cab, and the woman clumsily tumbles into the back seat of the cab and speeds off for the hospital. David Martinez came into the world in somewhat similar circumstances. Somewhat. Not quite so romantically comedic. David's mom, an EMT named Gloria, felt her water break while she was in the back of her speeding ambulance, trying to reattach the arm of an Edgerunner who had gotten it shot off. So she sutured, got it done, told the Edgerunner to swap seats with her, then proceeded to deliver her own baby on the gurney, the ambulance still speeding towards the hospital. That is absolutely crazy, and I knew Gloria was kind of a badass given her line of work that we see in the show, but that is actually insane that is how David Martinez was born. Okay, so there's more to it. The Edgerunner alongside her cut the umbilical cord, using the mantis blade in the arm Gloria had just salvaged. Brutal, yet somehow poetic. It was at that moment that Gloria and David were bonded in the awareness that she would do absolutely anything for him, and he would never let her down. Life in Santo Domingo was no rose garden. Exact opposite, actually. Trash, filth, dwarfers, psychos, and death at every corner. Gloria did her damnedest to shelter David from all manner of danger. Thing is, David just never liked the peaceful, mundane side of life. It bored him out of his skull. Yeah, David liked to have lots going on. Liked it when shit went down because as long as he could remember, he had the feeling he was destined for something bigger. So he scoped and kept tabs on anyone and everyone in and around Mega Building H4, and any Edgerunner he'd not seen before. David would talk his ear off. Soon as the local Ripper Dog had new chrome, David would be in his clinic ogling it. With all that curiosity bursting out of him, there'd be times where he'd get his ass kicked, but the curiosity wouldn't die, and David never thought to curb it. This one time, the son of a 6th Street gangoon, pissed off at David, found him, pinned him down, and started punching. He kept punching until he finally broke his own hand, and promptly started wailing like a little bitch, with everybody watching. David, covered in blood, laughed all the way through the beating, and for an hour after it, which pretty much meant no one in the hood would touch David ever again. And David was reassured that he was special, that he would do great things in life. So yeah, David, a lot of this stuff I read before, but I just kind of forgot it. So David a bit of a maniac and just always pushing the envelope for getting into trouble and I guess taking a beating, as he does a lot in the show. But I find that really funny that the dude who was actually, they actually describe it that when he broke his hand punching David, he started wailing like a little bitch. That's kind of funny, but definitely I'm more surprised at what we learn about his mom there, because that is just an insane way to have a baby. Okay, so the next character on this list is Dorio Gunnars. I'm butchering her last name. Gunnar's daughter. For that spelling is Gunnrsdottir. So, yeah, I kind of butchered that, but I did my best. Okay, yeah, I didn't really know much, if anything at all, about her backstory. I don't remember the show giving us any details, so I think you'll find this really interesting. Okay. Born in Iceland, if you can believe it, only natural, then that some mythological accents of the Norse variety appear in her background. Mom and Pop were both accomplished athletes. Dorio's childhood and youth were a blur, training in gyms, consuming uber-healthy meals, living out of suitcases while traveling from one weightlifting or track meet to the next. Her parents were essentially grooming her to be a world-class athlete. Until Night City turned out to be a stop along the winding path of Dorio. I'm just gonna stick to her first name. Of Dorio's and her rents. Interesting, yes. I'm curious what events and tracks she would have played, because, like, in the show, she's really big, like, even, like, close to Maine in size, so I wonder if she did, like, shot put or something. Okay, continuing. The fam arrived in NC for a track meet. Excuse me. A West Coast Grand Prix circuit event, and it was this meet that provided transformative for Dorio's pop. Or that proved transformative for Dorio's pop. Though her mom said outright that it had broken him, he emerged as the event's top hammer thrower and collected solid, if not overwhelming, prize money. Then he realized that what he had in hand was peanuts, cause he could make so much more by winning a single punch-up on the underground fight circuit run by the Animals. One night, he signed up for a tournament. It was a hard slog, cause anyone vying for membership in the Animals is close to being a world-class athlete, but Pops came out on top. Ka-ching. The Animals paid out and took him on as a member. Okay, so as I imagine you could probably guess, Dorio's father was a bit of a demon for the fact that he actually could hold his own fighting with members of the Animals. But that doesn't describe me with how tough Dorio was in the show. Dorio's mom didn't love it. In fact, she didn't like it one bit, but it gave her a comfy life in Night City. Dorio and Mom could spend their days training, and Mom's doubts were assuaged. Until there was this shootout. Animals versus Voodoo Boys. Both gangs decked out in heavy weapons. full automatic crossfire. The bullets ripped him apart, literally. A scrap of his face was the sole identifiable piece left. The family's comfy life came crashing down, but it was never the most important thing. Dorio and Mom lived on modesty and pumped iron day after day. I find that kind of funny that they're all kind of like meatheads, but that is a gruesome way to lose a family member. Okay, so yet, as it often does for young people, boredom crept in. Dorio's mom had made a conscious decision to be a professional athlete, to sacrifice all else and devote herself. Dorio had not made this decision, and in time she realized it was not the life for her. Then there was her hatred of Night City's gangs, which had begun with Pop's death and only festered since. She had a special place in the back corner of her heart for animals and voodoo boys, but there's fuck all she could do about it as a weightlifter. She skipped practice here, a meet there, wandering the city streets instead, looking down many a dark alley, searching for something. She didn't know what. Finally, she bought herself a gun. It seemed organic, a natural thing to do. Then she trained her gaze on an animal, random guy. She observed, she followed, she stalked. A thought began to bud in her mind. This gonk, unaware of Dorio or anything that had happened to her, would die. She would kill him and quench her rising hatred. Yeah, so it looks like that gang stuff just really did not go away at all. It just kind of festered in her after her dad died, and ultimately led her kind of down the path where we see her in the show. So there is one more paragraph here. And so one night, she followed him to a bar. She watched him drink. The guy drank a lot. When he got up to use the john, she followed him there. As he vacated his bladder, she put the barrel of her gun to his head, but she failed to pull the trigger. A split second later, she was on the floor with a broken nose. The animal stood over her, the barrel of her gun now staring her in the face. But he didn't fire either, because just then his brain exploded. Its pieces looked like glitter on the walls. Maine had dropped him. Maine, who had been stalking Dorio, while she'd been stalking the Gangoon. Maine, who now helped her up and said he was looking for peeps for his crew of Edgerunners. It only took a heartbeat for Dorio to sign on. That's really interesting. So that is how she ended up, I guess, so close to Maine in the show, and kind of part of the group of Edgerunners. He kind of saved her, I guess. So that is Dorio's backstory. Definitely, I definitely find it really neat, given that we didn't really get a whole lot of her in the show. So super cool. Okay, let's see who the next person is. Okay, so we have Falco and Kiwi, so I'll do Falco first. He's definitely one of my favorites from the show. I know he doesn't do a lot and he doesn't have a lot of voice lines, but his design and mannerisms I always found kind of neat. I like the cowboy aesthetic. Okay, here we go. Born in the free state of Texas, of course, Falco's parents owned vast swaths of land that they cultivated in close collaboration with Biotechnica. Falco was due to take the reins at the farm, but his favorite bit of work there involved driving tractors. Not quite as prescribed, though. He loved to hit the accelerator and keep it down, sending the big machines zipping across the fields at speeds unimaginable to any other tractor drivers. It wasn't that his tractors were better, or that he tweaked their engines. It was just about having the cojones to do it. Interesting. I guess the Cyberpunk tractors, I guess they're really fast. It's kind of funny. So Falco swapped his tractor seat for one in a stock car and began entering races on the local circuit. He turned out to be talented. Not only would he open the throttle wide, he also possessed a cool head that allowed him to smoothly execute even the riskiest moves. Pretty soon he had conquered the local circuit and began sinking globally, which took him onto the pro racing circuit. He reigned supreme there as well. Okay, so he was like a pro driver. I knew he was a driver, but to know that you would kind of assume he would just make a living being a pro driver than being an edge runner if he was so good at it. Okay, so after winning an unprecedented dozen plus races in a row, he started hankering for a new challenge. The search for one took him to Night City, where he could street race the craziest drivers from around the world on some of the hardest, most dangerous urban courses in existence. He didn't always win, and he liked that, yet he was among the best, chalking up night race wins against NC's racing greats, Rear View and Jeremy Taylor. I wonder if those two racers have a lot of history that you can look up, or if there's anywhere where they have a bunch of info on like different official racers in the Cyberpunk universe. Okay. It was Rear View who got him his first paid gig. He collected a couple of Edgerunners and together they pulled a heist at an orbital air warehouse. The crowd at the Afterlife got to know and like Falco, and he came around to liking the kind of tension that came with gigs he got from fixers. It was a satisfying life, and he mostly dropped racing, only hitting the occasional course as a special guest. Okay, so I guess he really liked taking risks on those Edgerunners missions. Because I imagine he must have been living pretty nice, winning official races, and sounds like pretty big ones too. To drop all that and become an Edgerunner, he must be definitely a big a risk taker, I guess, or an adrenaline junkie for racing to not be enough for him. But that is all for Falco. So now I will move on to Kiwi. Okay, so for Kiwi, and this is another one because in the show, she is very secretive. Like her whole thing is don't trust anybody. She even betrays the main group in the show. So I was really curious to read about her backstory. So here we go. Kiwi has no recollection of her parents. Likely when she was not much older than a toddler, she was sold to a corp factory where her small hands proved useful in the production of implant subassemblies. She worked alongside other kids and machines. The factory foreman took a liking to her. He protected her, helped her when she needed it, and befriended her. When the time was appropriate, he promoted her, gave her raises, and ensured some level of comfort. And then came the time for payback. He propositioned her, framing it as the debt Kiwi owed. When Kiwi refused, the foreman sold her off to a den of antiquity. Okay, so right off the bat, that is horrible. The fact that she was basically a child working in a cyberpunk sweatshop is definitely the darkest thing I've read in any of the backstories, at least for these ones so far. And at least I don't blame her that much for not trusting anyone, given what I've read she had to deal with at such a young age. Not even remembering her parents at all is just really rough. Okay, so going forward. But Kiwi was no ingenue, I don't know the word, it's Ingenue. She came equipped with tech knowledge from the factory and savvy about subassemblies, microcontrollers, and shards. She built a gizmo that inured her to sensations and cut off all emotional responses to the work she had to do. It was a way to survive. 2 years in, a brutish clan used his gorilla arms to tear away a part of her jaw. She concluded she would not have it reconstructed. She was done with her jaw and the cat house as well. Oh my god, that is insane. I guess that explains why she doesn't really have a mouth, or a jaw in the show. Holy moly, that is... her backstory just keeps getting darker and darker. And knowing that it's cyberpunk, I imagine it does not get much better. Kiwi had been a quick learner for as long as she could remember. Though while recovering from her encounter with the gorilla arms, she delved into net running. She found it satisfyingly challenging, which kept her motivated. Soon she used her newly acquired abilities to cause multiple short circuits at both the cat house and her old factory, causing both buildings to burn down completely, the proprietor and foreman inside. Damn, so at least it looks like she did get her revenge on those people. Which I honestly do not blame her for that. With all accounts now settled, and a mask covering her lower half of her face, Kiwi decided to embark on a new life path. She headed off for Night City, where she took on small net-running gigs. Then she met Rebecca, who in turn brought Kiwi into Maine's Edgerunner crew. Okay, so she met Rebecca first. I forget, they may have mentioned that in the show. I don't know if they did. But, okay, that definitely opens my eyes to why she is just so untrustworthy and for herself. Given, basically, from the time she was a kid, she had been on her own and having to survive with even the one person when she was a child who she thought looked out for her and was being kind of selfless and helping her, was just doing it so she would owe him a debt, which is just terrible. But it is neat to know that Rebecca was how she got brought into Maine's crew. Okay, so the next one, I imagine this will probably be a lot of people's favorites, or what they're most curious about, is Lucy. Especially, I know I was always super curious about Lucy's backstory, because we don't really know much. I think she mentions how she was on the run from Arasaka, and she had a history with them. We see that in the anime. But beyond that, we don't really know much. So I think this will be what a lot of people are, what you guys are most interested in. Okay, so here we go. Born in Warsaw to a Polish-Japanese family, Lucy's father, Takeshi Kushinada, was a veteran of the Fourth Corporate War. When hostilities ended, he was assigned to the Arasaka garrison in Warsaw. And I guess for those of you that don't know, Warsaw is the one thing that I know is cool. At least I find it neat. Like Warsaw, I'm pretty sure is the capital of Poland. Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like it's either Warsaw or Krakow. Let me see. Okay, yeah, Warsaw is the capital of Poland, so I know I always find the connections from Cyberpunk to the real world super cool. So the fact that she's from like the actual Polish capital is really neat to me. Okay, continuing. When hostilities ended, her father, he was assigned to the Arasaka garrison in Warsaw. Her mother, Shimmer, a member of a gang of Polish netrunners called 404 Squadron, dropped the underground life after meeting Takeshi, falling in love and starting a family with him. Interesting. I wonder if 404 has any sort of significance in Cyberpunk, or if it's a reference to anything. Lucy's childhood was positively idyllic. She attended the best schools, and she and her family lacked for nothing. Traveled frequently, and while home, enjoyed a spacious villa and garden in a luxury-gated Arasaka community near Warsaw's northeastern city limits. The first blemish on their family's bliss appeared when 7-year-old Lucina, okay, so that's her full name, Lucina hacked into her dad's computer and found info on his achievements during the Fourth Corporate War. What she saw shocked her. She knew him as her wondrous father, but the files proved him to be a brutal beast, a monster who happily murdered mercilessly whenever his superiors ordered him to. Geez, so her dad must have been an absolute animal. I wonder if he fought alongside Atom Smasher. That would have been nuts. They probably knew each other, I'm guessing. The revelation planted something sour in Lucy's chest, a stinging, a burning that commanded her to rebel, to run away from home, and to spend more and more time on the net. She proved to have talent for net running of the highest order. Her father, after recovering her from her latest adventure, decided to couple this talent with her penchant for running away. He forced his daughter to take a skills test at Arasaka, after which she was promptly assigned to the Corpse Netrunner outfit. Jesus, I'm curious if this is like the same netrunning thing we see in her backstory, because if so, her dad is a evil POS. That would be wild. I'm curious if it is, if her dad was really that much of a dickhead. Lucy's task was recovering old, lost, or archived info and data resting somewhere in the depths of the old net. Arasaka was drooling for info of the sort. But then the kids from Lucy's division started dying, dropping like flies, and Lucy once again decided to run. She made it out, but thought it best not to go home, fearing what her father would do if she returned. Instead, Lucy skipped across Europe, sometimes trying to settle down. Only whenever Lucy dared to rest, she could sense her mother, who had rejoined 404 Squadron, zeroing in on her. Uncertain of her mother's intentions, Lucy packed up and fled again and again, until she finally found herself on the other side of the Atlantic. Oh my god, that's nuts. I still wonder, though we know her dad was basically evil, I'm curious how her mom felt about it, or if her parents even knew that kids were dying. I imagine her dad probably did, but I wonder about her mom. If her mom was just trying to find her for, I guess, good purposes, if she just was worried about her and didn't know about the bad stuff. Although honestly, that's kind of hard to believe given Arasaka is a pretty nasty company, so as much as it sucks, I don't know, maybe her mom was good and didn't know about that stuff and was genuinely worried, but it's hard to say. Okay, so after roaming a good number of states, Lucy wound up in Night City, thinking that no place on Earth was destined to be her safe harbor. So she promised herself she'd amass the funds needed to flee to Luna, aka the moon. She started with petty thefts, rarely, if ever, training her sights on fatter loot. Until, that is, she met Kiwi, another netrunner who gently folded Lucy into Maine's crew. So that is all for Lucy's information in here. Really interesting. So, dang, the fact that we knew she was on the run from Arasaka, but the fact that she was on the run from her actual parents, and that is why she fled to the moon, is actually crazy to me. Although it makes sense why she was trying so hard to hide when both her parents were, or at least her father was a high-ranking Arasaka employee. It makes sense that she just was deathly afraid about Arasaka, and even just in the show, like David Martinez getting involved in. That actually makes me think, because of all this, I guess, spoilers for the show. Yeah, I guess we've already gone over probably some spoilers, but I'll throw it out there again. Given that, like, Lucy was found and going to be given to, like, Arasaka, like, was captured for them, would her parents have heard about that? Like, when that happened, I figure that when that was going on in the anime, unless it was being withheld from them, her parents would have heard about that she actually got found. And that's crazy to me, that I imagine it had been years. They finally find her, and just immediately she's gone again. Of course, if her parents are assholes, it's not that sad, but if her mom had any selflessness or true desire to connect with her daughter again, that is pretty sad. But I guess, it's Night City. There's sad endings, there's sad stuff everywhere. Okay, so we've got 3 more characters to go. Next, okay, this is another Cyberpunk DLC, so if you don't want any info on that, maybe skip this one. If you can, I'll do my best to add timestamps. Okay. The son of a jazz singer, a woman who traveled around what used to be the lower 48, singing in bars and lounges, hoping that some talent scout for a big promoter would hear her and sign her on the spot, which never happened, but something equally, if not more, momentous did. Namely, the morning after a concert in Portland, Maine, she puked and promptly figured out she was pregnant. Okay. Math was never her vibe, and she made a point of forgetting any lovers she took, though she could not know who the father was. What she did know, though, was that she liked Portland, and the state of Maine had been good to her in small ways, though she decided to settle down. She signed on as a waitress at a local diner and kept at it for 10 years while she raised her son, who she named after the state. Okay, yeah, she liked Portland, Maine, and then her son's name is Maine. So I guess now we know how he got it. Interesting. It would be cool if we knew how the other characters got their name, or if there was any special meaning behind it. Maine was a puny and sickly boy who got his ass kicked regularly by peers and older kids alike, so I guess similar to David in that way. Though he promised himself he'd be stronger, bigger and stronger than anyone around. He started packing on size and strengths and fighting in the underground boxing circuit. With his first prize purse, he bought his first bit of chrome. Titanium metacarpals and phalanges in his right hand, so as to knock his opponents out on his first solid contact with their jaws and knock them out. He did. So I'm guessing that's the arm that David gets, so really, I don't know, interesting there. You kind of see where he first got it. After his mama passed away, Maine took jobs as a bouncer at clubs, but he'd rarely stay long at any one place. What with the mincemeat he'd make of the faces of uppity ravers, one night he slept around and dropped 5 fridge-sized dudes with identical, patriotically themed box cuts. When it turned out they were NUSA Spec Ops, the club promptly canned Maine. Okay, yes, the Maine was really a beast even back then. That's nuts. Next day, Maine got a call with a job offer from NUSA Spec Ops. Learning he could let his beast out and get paid for it, Maine signed on without hesitation. I find the parallels between David, the fact that we know that their moms are dead, and that they kind of took a beating when they were younger, kind of interesting given how close they were in the show. It wasn't long before his bravado vanished, watching South American Village after South American Village burn was just not conducive to maintaining a sense of it. After serving 2 years, he took his discharge. A buddy from his unit, Solomon Reed, offered work of a different sort, specifically work aimed at building a network of spies in Night City to support the NUSA's unification war effort. And for those of you that don't remember or don't know, Solomon Reed was actually Idris Elba in the DLC, so the fact that Reed and Maine worked together and knew each other is just such a cool connection between the anime and the DLC. I thought that was like probably the coolest fact, or one of the coolest facts about these characters' backstories. Though Maine turned Solomon down, he did acknowledge that Night City was fertile ground for something. Not soldiering, no, but independent contract work, and thus Maine decided to become an Edgerunner and form his own crew. Super cool. Definitely one of the... I feel like we really learn a lot more about Maine than we previously knew about him. Okay, so the next characters are Pilar and another, I'm sure this is many people's favorites, Rebecca. So I'm gonna save her for last. Just kind of saving the best for last, because she is also another one of my probably top 3 characters from the anime. Okay. So for Pilar, Becca's big bro, and probably the biggest fan ever of their dad, the Edgerunner Papa Sunrise. Pilar saw his dad as nothing short of amazing. It was Papa Sunrise who inspired Pilar and trained him in his early years. Pilar took some hard shots, and it pained his dad to see it, but they stayed the course, and then Papa Sunrise up and disappeared. That guy's an asshole. But someone that impressive, well, no way he'd went down easy. No way it was even fair. Pilar fervently believed his dad was dropped, parentheses, and dissolved. He pledged to find the killers and to murder them even harder than they'd murdered his dad. But first he had his little sis to take care of. Okay, he's not actually an asshole. I assumed he just left, but okay, he was killed. So, I guess not as much of a dickhead. And given that his last name in his title was Sunrise, I wondered if there's any connection to the Sunrise Motel. I'm kind of curious about that. Okay, so did we mention life was tough? The family's pad was quickly repossessed to settle Papa Sunrise's alleged gambling debts, and the eddies from the family account evaporated mysteriously. Uh-oh. So Pilar and his sis hit the streets to live there in their dad's broken down car. Pilar promised Rebecca he'd get them off the streets fast, no matter what. He'd just show the town just how solid a merc he is, and he'd be a well-known Edgerunner in days, well, maybe weeks. So I guess it took him a little bit to make a name for himself. But I will say, the fact that it seems like he was always a really kind of protective older brother, despite kind of the jokey, we kind of see him as kind of a jokey character in the anime, and not really serious, but to learn that of course he cared for his sister, to kind of get in more information or examples of how much he cared for Rebecca, I think is kind of neat for his character. But some, or even most of his dad's friends and acquaintances turned their back on the kids. Only a few. Wakeko, for any of you who don't know, she is actually the fixer, I believe, from Japantown, so you can actually meet her in game and do missions for her. So another cool connection between the game and the anime. Okay, so Wakeko, who Pilar called Auntie, chief among them, proved willing to help, giving him gigs and recommending him to others. Still, the going was tough. Something always seemed to get in the way of bagging the big score. After a while, Pilar realized what his problem was. His chaotic sister Becca sank every mission they went on. He needed finally, what I imagine a decent amount of you are waiting for, we move on to Rebecca. Okay, let me grab a drink of water before beginning. There we go. So, Night City born and bred, Becca's a true daughter of the town, having ventured outside city limits a whopping 2 times in total. She is the daughter of an NC royalty. Her father, Papa Sunrise, was one of the city's best-known Edgerunners, until one day he vanished, as if the ground had opened beneath him and swallowed him whole. Now orphans Becca and her big brother Pilar were forced to fend for themselves in the big city. Their mother was already gone, vanished when Rebecca was a mere 6 years of age. Papa Sunrise never liked to talk about her, except to admonish Becca for being just like Mom, emotional, unpredictable, and too compassionate. Okay, so based off that description, I wonder, because I don't imagine if Becca's mom was anything like her, I'm guessing she'd be very emotional and get attached to people, namely her kids. So I can't imagine she just left. So I wonder if she died or got killed, because given how closely Rebecca is to the characters in the anime and how much she likes to kind of hang out with them, interact with them, joke around, I can't imagine her mom would just be unattached to her own kids. Which, that's just another example of something terribly sad happening in Night City. Continuing. Emotional, unpredictable, and too compassionate. That was Rebecca in a nutshell, and it harmed her budding career as an Edgerunner. For example, she was once late to an important meetup with Wakeko Okada because she stood up for a defenseless waitress accosted by a crew of animals. On another occasion, she just had to stop and cuddle a painfully cute pup, thus garnering the attention of a group of passing scavs. Okay, so Rebecca was actually just the sweetest character ever. The fact that she messed up gigs to protect a waitress and cuddle a puppy is... I guess we always knew she was a sweetheart, but learning more examples of it is just, I don't know, it just makes you like the character even more. Another time, instead of blowing a target's brains out, she spared him and took him home, gave him a roof over his head. Had such sad eyes, the poor gonk, she said. Okay, yeah, so she probably was not the best to bring on missions given how compassionate she was, but maybe you could say she was too compassionate for Night City, which she probably was. Okay. Papa Sunrise always believed that Becca's zaniness and her excessive compassion could lead her to an early grave. And those traits formed a rift between her and her brother as they embarked on their edge-running careers. For a time, Rebecca wasn't even sure she wanted to be an edgerunner. She spent months soul-searching, and for a minute there, she was leaning towards no. Then Pilar introduced her to Maine, and the rest is history. So there's that. That's crazy that Rebecca was really close to actually not ever being an edgerunner. I find it kind of interesting that she went from taking someone she was supposed to kill home and giving him a roof roof over his head to the kind of violent, over-the-top character we meet in the anime. Although I guess the people that she's killing are kind of maniacs too, or cyber psycho, or there's plenty of people who are assholes in Night City, so I guess there's plenty of people that you can probably get away with killing and it not, sit too heavy on your conscience. Okay, but it looks like that is all of the backstories in the little Edgerunners one-shot info book. I do hope you enjoyed, and let me know what was your favorite backstory that you heard about, or what interesting fact did you find the most surprising that you learned about a character in this video. For me, it was probably learning how David got born. That is just a nutty story. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed the video. It looks like it is daytime now, and although I guess a little fun fact, you may have recognized this is actually where David and Lucy were sitting on the rooftop, watching the rocket launch. You can kind of see it at the top of the screen. So I figured it was kind of fitting for this video talking about the characters. That'll be it though. Again, I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like, comment, or subscribe if you found it entertaining, and have a good night.